Have you ever had a moment so quiet you could almost hear your own heart breaking? Mine happened on Mother's Day. My son David stood in my doorway holding yellow lilies, looking every bit the successful man he'd become. 38, a tech millionaire, golden-haired and handsome. But there was something distant in his eyes. He set the flowers on my worn kitchen table. "Mom, Clara's still sending you the $5,000 a month, right?" "I just want to make sure you're comfortable." The world tilted. $5,000? For 8 months, I'd been living on food packages from St. Mary's Church. My neighbor's vegetables, canned soup and prayers. "Son," I whispered, "the church has been helping me get by." The color drained from his face, and then she appeared, Clara, my daughter-in-law. Pearl silk dress, designer heels clicking on my old floorboards, a cloud of Chanel No. 5. Her smile was perfect, but her eyes were ice. "I'm Margaret Hayes, 67, widowed 10 years, and until that moment, I thought being poor was the hardest thing I'd face in my old age." I was wrong. Being invisible was worse. "Clara," David said, his voice tight, "you've been bringing Mom the money, right? I transfer it to your account on the 15th. Clara glided to his side, her hand on his arm. "Of course I have, darling. Don't you remember, Mother?" I looked at her perfect mask of concern. A deep calm settled over me. "If you brought it, dear, it must have gotten lost between your car and my front door." The silence was deafening. Clara tilted her head. "Perhaps Mother's memory isn't what it used to be. You know how it is at her age." Those words landed like stones. At her age. As if being old meant being stupid. I didn't argue. Some truths don't need to be shouted. They just need time. But something inside me had awakened. Something fierce. After they left, I sat alone, watching sunlight stretch across the floor. $40,000. Enough to fix my leaking roof, replace my dying refrigerator, give me peace in my final years. Instead, I'd been surviving on charity while she drove a Mercedes. That night, I opened an old notebook and wrote 2 words at the top: "Find the truth." And beneath it, "Don't trust fake tears." I was Margaret Hayes. I had survived loss and loneliness. I would survive this too. Have you ever lain awake wondering if you're the one who got it wrong? For days I questioned myself. Maybe I had forgotten. Maybe the money was lost in the mail. The mind plays tricks when you're alone. But then I'd open my accounting ledger. Neat, steady handwriting. $12 for blood pressure medicine, $24 for electric. Every penny accounted for. No $5,000 deposits. I walked to First Texas Community Bank. "Could you check?" I asked the teller, hands trembling. "If there have been any transfers from David Hayes? $5,000 a month for 8 months? She typed, frowned, shook her head. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Hayes. Nothing. Just $1.35 in interest." I walked out into the morning wind, a stone in my chest. No transfers. No envelopes. Nothing. While my son believed he was caring for me, I was clipping coupons and praying for bread. And the reason was a lie crafted by the woman he loved. That afternoon at St. Mary's, Reverend Cole found me in the last pew. "Margaret, what's wrong? I'm trying to understand why some prayers get lost on their way to heaven." He squeezed my shoulder. "Sometimes the Lord's answer isn't a miracle. It's the strength to find the truth yourself." That night I opened the leather journal David gave me years ago. On the first page, I wrote a promise. If they're lying, I will bring the truth into the light. From then on, I documented everything. June 14th, Clara stopped by with store-bought cake. Said the money was sent. Never met my eyes. No envelope. July 12th, Clara called, said she was too busy to visit. I heard restaurant noise in the background. Line by line, I built my case. Numbers don't lie. The visits continued. One August afternoon, Clara arrived in a brand new white Lexus. She stepped out holding lavender. "I brought these to help you relax, Mother." "Stress isn't good for the memory." I set down my watering can. "My memory's fine, Clara. Fine enough to remember the last time you brought me money." Which was never. Her mask slipped, just for a second. Panic flickered across her face. "Mother, you must be mistaken. I'm sure it's your bank's fault." "Maybe. But I already asked them. Nothing has come through for 8 months." Silence. Even the birds held their breath. Clara fidgeted with her pearl necklace. I'll double-check." She practically fled. That night I wrote, August 22nd. Clara visited, lied, grew nervous. Left in a hurry. The truth is surfacing. Then something unexpected happened. A knock on my door. A tall man in a charcoal suit stood on my porch. "Mrs. Hayes? I'm Bennett, chief accountant at your son's company. Sandra told me about your call. I thought there were things you should know in person." I invited him in. He opened his briefcase and slid a folder across my kitchen table. "These are copies of the 8 transfers. $40,000 total." He pointed to the account number. "This isn't your bank account." Then he showed me internal bank forms. "This is the paperwork used to open that account. The signature is a forgery of yours. Clara Hayes is listed as secondary user with full access. My name, my signature, used to steal from my own son. Does David know?" Bennett sighed. "I don't believe so. He trusts Clara with all the finances. He signs what she puts in front of him." He paused. "And that's not all. She's been using the company credit card for personal expenses." He pulled out more papers. First-class flights, designer shopping sprees, spa days, jewelry. Over $30,000 in 3 months. I stared at the papers, a testament to my own blindness. The spa days, the Lexus, the perfume. While I counted pennies, she lived in luxury. "If I decide to expose this, will you help me?" He met my gaze. "Mrs. Hayes, I believe in doing what's right. But we need an airtight case." "I know," I said. "I've seen her lie with a smile." "Then we'll let the numbers do the talking. Give me a few days." After he left, I sat with the papers. I locked them in Frank's old metal box. That night I wrote, September 11th, "Mr. Bennett visited. He is an ally. The evidence is clear. She stole from David, too. The fight is no longer just mine." For the first time in months, I didn't feel alone. Have you ever had to set a trap for someone you love? Not a cruel trap, but a necessary one, built of truth, designed to open their eyes. With Bennett's evidence locked away, I had proof. But proof means nothing if my son won't see it. I called David. "Son, it's been so long. I'm making honey-roasted chicken this Sunday. Could you and Clara come?" His voice warmed. "Mom, that sounds wonderful." He never suspected a thing. I spent Sunday morning cooking, his childhood favorites. Roasting chicken, mashed potatoes, apple pie. I set the table with my best dishes and lit candles. A liar is most comfortable and most careless, where they feel in control. Right on time, Clara arrived in her silver Lexus. Jade silk dress, pearls, carrying a gift basket with a golden ribbon. "Mother, I brought you something." "David's swamped, so I came in his place." I wiped my hands. "How thoughtful, dear." We sat for dinner. I kept conversation light, garden, weather, neighbors. The candlelight worked its magic, lulling Clara into relaxed confidence. Then, as I served the chicken, I looked up and smiled. "I'm so grateful for this month's $5,000. I finally bought a new heater for winter." Clara preened. "Oh, Mother, I'm happy to do it." I nodded, then asked casually, "What day of the month do you usually send it?" She didn't hesitate. "The 10th, Mother." "On the 10th of every month." But before I could speak, David frowned. "Wait, honey, not the 10th. I set up the transfer for the 15th. The air turned to ice. They stared at each other. Clara forced a shaky laugh. "The 15th? Are you sure, darling? I could have sworn you said the 10th. David's frown deepened. "No, I'm positive. The day after my payroll clears." I smiled gently. "Well, that's good to know. I'll check with the bank on the 16th. Clara's laugh was brittle. "Mother, you're so meticulous." "Don't worry, it's all taken care of." David nodded, but doubt flickered in his eyes. He looked at his wife differently. Clara quickly changed the subject. But the damage was done. The first thread had been pulled. After they left, I stood watching their taillights disappear. I didn't feel triumphant, just released. I went to my computer and emailed Bennett and my lawyer friend Amelia. Subject, "It's time to begin." The plan worked. She contradicted him to his face. "He's starting to see. Please prepare the final files. It's time to let her lies bring her down." The 15th was days away, and I knew the dam would finally break. 2 days later, Bennett emailed, "Margaret, I have written confirmation from the bank. The account was opened by Clara using forged documents. Everything is ready." That night I wrote my final journal entry before everything changed. September 13th. Dinner was a success. Clara exposed her own lie. David is questioning. The truth is coming, quiet as morning fog, but just as certain. On the 17th, a large manila envelope arrived. Confidential, Hayes Financial Records. Inside were dozens of pages. Bank statements, credit card bills, invoices. 8 transfers, $40,000, all to Clara's account. Spa receipts for $1,200. First-class tickets to Cancun for $3,600. The Lexus down payment, $15,000 on the company card. Total, $47,800. I sat in the morning sun, each receipt a small betrayal. That afternoon, my lawyer Amelia called. Margaret, I've reviewed everything. It's airtight. Elder financial exploitation. We can press charges or file civil suit. I looked at David's photo on my mantle. Not yet, Amelia. The court can't see this before David does. He needs to see it with his own eyes. Only then will justice mean anything. You're a good mother, Margaret. Then the final piece fell into place. Amelia, I need your help and Reverend Cole's. I want to host a small dinner here. Get them both here with a trusted witness present. Amelia chuckled. Very clever. I'll have Bennett prepare a summary, something David can't ignore. I drove to St. Mary's. When I explained the plan, Reverend Cole smiled. Sometimes the Lord doesn't use thunder and lightning. Sometimes all he needs is quiet truth shining in a small room. He agreed to come during dinner, carrying an envelope he'd claim contained church donation records. But inside would be Bennett's summary, every transfer, every charge, every lie. On the way home, profound sadness washed over me. I wasn't setting a trap for Clara anymore. I was setting it for my son. I had to break his heart to save him. That night, I prepared a large beige envelope. On the front, donation documents, St. Mary's Senior Assistance Fund. Inside was only a testament to guilt and deceit. I looked at myself in the mirror. A tired, silver-haired woman stared back. But her eyes were bright. She was a mother who refused to stay silent. And she was ready. There's a particular quiet that falls before a storm. That Sunday evening, my house smelled of red wine beef stew, David's favorite since childhood. But I wasn't just cooking. I was setting a stage. On the dining table, white tablecloth, good china, 3 wine glasses. And in the center, innocent as a church program, sat the beige envelope, the silent witness. At 7, tires crunched on gravel. David in a white shirt looking tired. Clara in pale pink silk. Mom, it smells like home. I made it just for you, son. Clara glided in behind him. Oh, Mother, this is so lovely. Yes, I said softly. Tonight will be very special. Minutes later, Reverend Cole arrived, holding a white envelope. Margaret, my apologies for being late. Here are those donation papers. Clara tilted her head. A charity dinner. I thought you were joking, Mother. No, dear. It's a dinner to talk about important things. About trust and giving and honesty. The word hung in the air. Clara stiffened. Once we started eating, I reached for the envelope. My hands were steady. I pulled out the papers and slid the first sheet toward David. Son, Reverend Cole brought the list of major donations to the Seniors Fund. I thought you should look. David frowned. Donations? Mom, why would you need donations? I've been sending money. I pointed to the bold print. Recipient, Clara Hayes. Amount, $5,000. Date, 15th of each month. Color drained from David's face. His eyes widened. Confusion, disbelief, then horrified understanding. Clara jumped in, voice strained. That must be a banking error. Mother, you've been getting the money. Banks make mistakes. I kept my voice calm. Is that so? Then perhaps the bank also made a mistake with this. I slid the next page. A spa bill for $1,200 charged to the company card under your name. Was that an error too? Her face went rigid. Someone must have used my name. Identity theft is so common. A deep voice came from the doorway. No, Mrs. Hayes. No one used your name by accident. Everyone turned. Bennett stood in the threshold, holding another file. Clara went white. Who are you? David's voice shook. I'm Bennett, chief accountant at your company. Your mother authorized me to investigate the fraudulent use of her name and your funds. Dead silence. I stood up. Bennett can verify every transfer, every signature, every charge. 8 months. $40,000. Not a single penny reached me. David turned to Clara. What is this? She grabbed his arm, tears streaming. David, I just borrowed it. I was going to pay it back. I didn't want to worry you. I let out a slow breath. You call forging my signature and living in luxury borrowing? David ripped his hand away. My mother was living on charity while you were at spas? While you bought new cars? You lied to me. Enough! His palm slammed the table. Wine glasses rattled. Only Clara's ragged breaths could be heard. Reverend Cole spoke quietly. The Bible says what is done in darkness will be brought to light. I looked at Clara with weary sadness. I didn't need the money, Clara. I needed my son's respect. You stole that from both of us. She let out a strangled sob, grabbed her purse, and stumbled backward. I can't do this. If you're all going to believe her, then fine. She fled. The door slammed. David sat there, head in hands, staring at the papers that destroyed his world. The smell of stew seemed wrong now, a ghost of happiness that was no longer real. It was over. The lies were broken. But looking at my son's shattered face, I felt no victory, only deep, aching sorrow. A mother who had to tear down her son's life to save it. Have you ever won a battle and felt nothing but emptiness? The days after were a blur of legalities. Amelia moved swiftly. A week later, a court envelope arrived. Margaret Hayes, plaintiff versus Clara Hayes, defendant. The morning of the hearing, gray sky threatening rain. As Amelia and I walked into the courthouse, I felt fear, not of Clara, but of the damage to my son. Clara was already there. Severe black suit, pale face, defiant eyes. Behind her sat David, hollowed out. Sunken eyes. He looked at no one, just stared at the wall, lost in ruins. Amelia was magnificent. She laid out evidence piece by piece. Bank statements, spa receipts, the Lexus invoice, forged signatures. Clara's lawyer tried to paint me as confused and forgetful. Your Honor, Clara said, voice trembling, my mother-in-law has been forgetful. I brought her money many times. She misunderstood. Then Amelia presented my brown leather notebook. Your Honor, if this is memory loss, it's the most precise case I've ever seen. She held up my journal, 8 months of lies documented with dates matching bank records perfectly. The judge listened to Bennett's testimony, confirming the fraud. Then he delivered his verdict. Clara was found guilty of elder financial exploitation and marital fraud. She was ordered to repay $40,000 and stripped of access to David's finances. The gavel cracked. I looked at Clara. The mask had crumbled. She sank into her chair, silent tears streaming. She turned to David, expression pleading. He looked at her with empty eyes. Then slowly, he turned away. That single gesture broke my heart more than anything. As I left the courthouse, rain began to fall, cold and heavy. Justice doesn't always feel like victory. Sometimes it just feels like the end of a sad story. In the months after, David's silence was absolute. No calls, nothing. I knew he needed time, but the ache of his absence was constant. Then one morning, an email. Deposit completed. $40,000. The money was back. I stared at the screen. I didn't feel joy, just hollow. I met with Reverend Cole and Amelia. I want to start a foundation to help elderly people who've been financially exploited, people who feel invisible like I did. I'll call it the Grace Hands Foundation. Reverend Cole's eyes shone. Margaret, this is how God turns pain into blessing. We began. Our first office was a church basement room with 3 second-hand desks and a sign I painted, helping the forgotten find their voice again. And they came. A woman whose daughter stole her home. A man whose grandson drained his pension. Each story was a wound, but I learned to listen, hold hands, and tell them the truth always arrives on time. As the foundation grew, I found new rhythm. David's absence still ached, but it was filled with quiet satisfaction. Every night I'd light a candle by David's photo. I hope you're finding your way, son. Then one stormy night, months after the trial, a knock at my door. Past 10 o'clock. When I opened it, wind and rain blew in. David stood there, soaked, hair plastered to his forehead, eyes red-rimmed. Mom! He choked out. Mom, I'm so sorry. He fell to his knees on my doorstep, a millionaire sobbing like a lost boy. I knelt beside him, wrapping my arms around his shaking shoulders, rain and tears mingling. Get up, son, I whispered, guiding him inside. Everyone stumbles. Forgiveness isn't about forgetting. It's about not letting it break you. He lifted his tear-streaked face. I don't deserve it. I doubted you. I let her fool me. I lost everything. He told me what happened. Clara was gone. She drained their savings and disappeared with another man. Left a cruel note. You trusted the wrong person. I felt no anger, only sadness for the broken man on my sofa. You didn't lose everything, David. Tonight, you found something more important. The heart that knows how to admit when it's wrong. He stayed long, curled by the fireplace, storm raging outside. As rain softened, he looked at me. "Mom, can I help?" "At your foundation, I want to do something that matters." From that day forward, he did. Every weekend, bringing coffee and quiet determination. He organized files, wrote letters, and sat with victims, listening with humility I hadn't seen since he was a boy. One morning, I watched him help an old man with legal forms, sunlight catching the gold in his hair. I didn't see the millionaire businessman. I saw my David again, the kind boy I'd raised. "David," I called softly. He looked up, gentle smile touching his lips. "You found your way back, son. Not everyone has that courage." "I only did it because of you, Mom. You never gave up on the truth." "I never gave up on you," I corrected. Life always leaves a door open for those brave enough to walk back through. And as I watched my son, my redeemed son, I knew the storm had passed. Peace, real and lasting, had found its way home. A year can change everything. A year before, my world was defined by loss and hardship. Now it was filled with purpose and surprising joy. The Grace Hands Foundation had become a beacon of hope. One autumn morning, I sat at my desk, lavender drifting from the porch. I found myself writing. "Clara, thank you." Strange peace settled over me. "You taught me a lesson I needed. You taught me that truth must be defended. You took my money, but you gave me back my strength. You gave me my voice. I don't know where you are, but I forgive you. Not for you, but for me. Because I refuse to let your darkness define the rest of my life." I folded the letter, one that would never be sent, and placed it in Frank's old wooden box. The final chapter of a long, difficult book. Then came a phone call from the governor's office in Austin. "Mrs. Hayes, congratulations. You've been selected as Texas Woman of the Year for your contributions to social justice and senior rights." A year ago, I lived on charity. Now they called me a symbol of justice. The ceremony was held in a grand hall. I wore a simple blue dress, feeling out of place. But then I saw him. Second row. David, eyes shining with pride more precious than any award. At the podium, applause washed over me. "Thank you. But I'm not here to tell my story. I'm here to tell the story of every grandparent who's ever felt invisible, betrayed, silenced. I once thought the best response to betrayal was silence. But I learned that when someone steals your trust, you must reclaim it with truth. Because truth holds power no amount of money ever could. Silence filled the hall. Understanding silence. Justice doesn't just happen in a courtroom. It begins in your own heart, the moment you find courage to say, "Enough." That's the bravest thing any of us can do. Afterward, light rain began, glimmering under city lights. David draped his jacket over my shoulders. "Mom, I've never seen you shine so brightly." I smiled, taking his hand. "It's not the award, son. It's because you're standing with me in the light." That night, back in my quiet house, I opened my journal one last time. On the final page, a mother's greatest victory isn't winning a case. It's watching her child learn the true value of honesty. I closed the book heart full. My life wasn't grand or wealthy, but it was rich in ways that truly mattered. And if you're still here with me, thank you. Thank you for staying to the very end. If you've ever faced a moment where you had to choose between silence and truth, I'd be honored to hear your story in the comments below. Because every voice that speaks out helps another find hope to do the same. And I have learned with every fiber of my being that the truth will always, always find its way home.